Welcome to PolyCast, a civilization podcast focused on game strategy.
Dan Q.
Makalua.
The Me and Team.
Mad Jin.
With guest co-host
Nerdy Sandy. So how does this work? It actually live broadcasts? And then...
Yes.
Okay. And then you edit it down for later?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Yes, we make Dan do a lot of work.
Yeah, so I'll avoid the accidental F-bomb.
You're going to make purposeful F-bombs instead. Okay, thanks.
Exactly, just to make your life harder. Hi, everyone. I'm Nerdy Sandy. Welcome to episode 191, PolyCast. We have Dan Q.
If you had a bunch of melons and I took all of your melons, you'd be melancholy.
Mad Jin.
Seriously, why do you... Just, no, stop it.
Makalua.
No, really, Dan, it's too early for that kind of punnery. I'm not caffeinated enough.
And the Me and Team.
Using only the most legit of strategies.
You mean the me and cheese?
Honest, the most legit strategies.
I have seen your work.
I am proud of my work.
So, Mackie has seen the case file.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Files. From Marius Pop, in response to episode 185, I only started listening to PolyCast this year, but I'm loving it so far. Entertaining, light, educational, and respect to Civ, that is. Keep up the good work. And thank you. And how are we not educational in all respects? What's this only Civ? But no, we definitely appreciate that feedback as well, for sure.
Yeah, and I had actually asked the person, Marius, how he had come across the show. Sure enough, it's because it was mentioned on a Beyond the Monument episode that I was on.
Troll face.
Oh, no. You might say it a few more times now, Majin. Just
okay.
As a warning.
Beyond the Monument!
Yeah, you got to make up for all the times with the polycast.net.
No, the other way around. But if he were to show up on Beyond the Monument again...
Oh, he's already like a couple hundred into it.
If you listen, or I guess more accurately, if you watch each episode that I've been on Beyond the Monument more than once, then technically I have said Polycast a lot more than if you just watched each episode once.
Yes.
True.
Hee hee. From Claus, and he goes, "Damn you, Polycast crew. I started listening to the podcast from time to time after Mackie was on that Skyrim podcast. Now I even started playing Civ 4 again and Civ Rev for the iPad, and it is all your fault. Seriously now, love the podcast, love the banter, keep it up." Feedback we received from episode 190 over on CFC.
Ooh, feedback.
Mike had said, "I came to this party late, but I'm happy to listen in each time. Thanks, team." Thank you, and you can catch up on all of our previous episodes of the show from its archives. We're not like some podcasts that use some services that means you can only access certain episodes. Not naming any podcasts. They know who they are, and they feel ashamed. Lead to the Head says, "Too bad you didn't go to weekly, but I suppose bi-weekly should prevent the participants from getting burned out. Also quitting."
Yeah, dude, we get up on Saturday mornings to do this. You don't want us doing this every week, or there would be quitting.
Saturday mornings.
Lead to the Head said this in response to, on episode 190, we talked about the results of our 2013 feedback survey. And one of the questions was, do you think that we should record every week, every other week, every month, or every quarter? And I was pretty close between, weekly and every other week. So I told Lead to the Head in response that, yeah, it's commitments and availability of time that led to our decision to keep the show on a bi-weekly basis. Now, the Grumpy Buddha says they didn't actually have a January 13th podcast without discussing the Mega Doom game-ruining exploit, did they? It's not in the summary, but I can't imagine it not being discussed. Okay, here's what I said in the thread. This episode, that being 190, was recorded on January 4th and then released on the 11th. The next episode is to be recorded this Saturday, which is, of course, the 18th when we're recording this now. But you can continue to imagine us discussing this Mega Doom game-ruining exploit because we're not going to be discussing it.
Whee!
Next, Redis Recu Just had a few questions. Will there be changes in the PolyCast dates and times? And I was a little confused about that. So I said, as in when the episodes are recorded and released? Nope. Every other Saturday, starting at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, North America. And so then he says, well, will the survey that was done last year for the PolyCast change the PolyCast in other ways? Well, Magin's ego will continue to grow because
No.
Is that possible?
I think next year's poll is going to be, who's your second favorite after Matt Shea?
Oh, come on. You guys are doing...
So I asked him to clarify what he meant, and he says there were time preference questions in the survey which made me believe there could be changes. And so again, no, we are recording still every other week. Now, Matt Zed said in the thread, as for the topic of guest co-host, I'm personally a little iffy. On the one hand, I absolutely loved it when the Firaxis developers came on to discuss Brave New World, and having them back on would be by far my number one things I would like PolyCast to do in 2014 list. On the other hand, many guest co-hosts often have significantly worse mic quality than the regulars, and when that happens, I would actually just prefer the guest co-host politely bow out and come back next week when their audio is better. Now, I was about to say we're not going to mention any usernames.
Yeah, we will.
It's understandable that most of our guests aren't going to have as good as microphones as we do because we do this show every other week, whereas as a guest is on now and again, and especially a first-time guest co-host.
Yeah, more likely than not, all they've got is a cheap headset for gaming stuff and not something a little bit better.
Yes. And I mean, for me personally, so long as I can understand what is being said, and that's easily 9.5 times out of 10, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I think actually a lot of guest co-hosts, when they know their microphone quality is poor, especially when they're a first-time guest co-host, because they're not necessarily certain if the microphone's good enough quality or not, that they kind of censor themselves from saying a lot, and part of because of the technical difficulty, and also because, the rest of us just don't shut up.
Mm.
But...
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I said I can understand where you're coming from on this, but I also think that, microphone quality thing is subjective. So if you're having difficulty understanding what someone is saying, you could go to our YouTube channel and read the transcription.
Yeah, you could.
I didn't say you should. I'm just saying you could.
No, we've also had some people phone in, and phones aren't the best plan, especially when you're on a bus.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. That's true. Yes, we did have that last season. That's
Yes,
right.
we did.
And sometimes actually a regular co-host, more than once, and more than one regular co-host has actually had to call in from their phone because they were having some technical difficulties. So there is that as well.
Yeah.
I could say that if their microphone quality wasn't the greatest, that they could sign if they knew sign language, but that would require us going to a video format. And we've established before that's not going to happen. So
I'm trying, listeners.
Suggested by someone in the audience, I will just stay ahead of the curve and note that will not be practical. Although I suppose they could still sign their answers, just no one will see it.
We could have a video podcast. It would be great.
Although I think to go back to the will things change, but like the type of topics we cover and stuff like that might get modified a little based on the feedback, just because it's like there was high interest in certain types of topics, so they may actually show up a little bit more. But
depends too. I mean, if the poll results had shown us something crazy,
Yeah.
like you really don't like the biweekly format, or there's some particular thing that we cover that is really loved almost universally that we almost never do, or something like that, well, yeah, I mean, we would definitely do it.
so all CF3 coverage all the time now that we're going with.
Someone hacks the poll. What is this 98% Civ 3 coverage only result?
Was it even on the
I think we would know something was a little fishy with that.
Probably.
I will say that 2012, I tried to get some Civilization 3 players together where I would be on the call as well, but they would record a focus special on Civilization 3 like we've done with some other Civ-like titles in the past. But unfortunately, it just did not pan out.
Yeah.
Timing and everything. And now I will pursue that again, but I will say if there's any Civilization 3 player, or even going back farther in time, Civilization 2 player, or even Civilization 1 player that would like to see a focus special, and you would be willing to participate on that panel, which would mean that you would actually speak verbally, then get in contact with me, because if you're interested, then you probably know that community better than I do. And by probably, I mean absolutely. And you'd be able to help me approach other people to be on the panel. And quite frankly, if someone came forward, I might say, why don't you ask other people in the community if they would be interested on the show, because it would be coming from you, someone they're more likely to know. So it's not that we preclude such coverage, but seeing as how, okay, when was the last time I played Civilization 3 as an example? 2003, maybe 4? No, it was later than that. Sorry. No, 2006, actually, because I actually didn't get Civilization 4 until after the first expansion pack came out. Gasp. I also didn't have a computer that could run Civ 4. That was also a big reason why I stuck with Civ 3. Civilization 2, I don't know, 2000-ish, somewhere in there. And Civilization 1, well...
Back when most of you were still in diapers?
I'm not sure I played Civ 1 ever. I think I started on Civ 2.
I started on Civ 1. But then again, I was one of those fancy people who had a computer back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I was a bit young, so it took me a while.
I was young too, but I just happened to have a computer around.
Yeah. Well, my dad had one, but we're talking like DOS only, or like maybe the earliest Windows 3.1.
Yep.
So thanks to everyone who provided feedback on episode 190, because although I do respond in the thread, I also like to bring it up from time to time on the show, just in case there might be some people who listen to the show that don't check out the discussion threads.
So speaking of more feedbacks, from episode 190, we got an email in from Red. Dear Polycaster, I recently discovered your show and quickly became a huge fan. You're very entertaining, and together with Mad Jin's Beyond the Monument, have greatly improved my play. Thanks to you guys, I've gone from playing on Noble to playing on Emperor and eyeing Immortal, since I never got past King on Civ 5. Figure I owe you guys. Now, on to my question. My friend and I...
Actually, that was, sorry to interrupt you, that was since I never got past King on Civ 4.
Yeah.
Roman numerals, stir.
No, it's okay. Mackie, you have said before on the show that Civ 4 is now the wrong Civ. So that's why you said Civ 5.
Mm-hmm. There is no King in Civ 4.
Oh, good grief. I meant in that one instance I was clicking on the wrong one because we were all playing 5. It wouldn't help me to start Civ 4 if you guys are playing Civ 5. Speaking of multiplayer.
Yeah, speaking of multiplayer.
Maybe we shouldn't, speaking of multiplayer. Just kidding.
Yeah, we could tell about some other games multiplayer being stupid, but anyway.
We had some fun with that.
My friend and I like to play Civ 5 multiplayer together. While it's a ton of fun and more tactical and engaging than playing against only AI, we run into a problem. I've been playing since early Civ 4, while he picked the series up with Civ 5. To balance things out, I've been playing 2 difficulties higher, Emperor versus Noble, but we still run into problems. The AI plays at a Noble level, meaning I can run over them easily, giving me a huge advantage. I've even tried playing random civs and randomly determining my victory condition before even starting. Yet our games still tend to be distressingly one-sided, meaning we both enjoy the game a lot less. We try playing co-op games, but if we're working together, my friend still feels overshadowed, and the game is either way too easy for me with lower-level AI or way too hard with him with high-level AI. I know that you guys play multiplayer games every week, and from the podcast, it seems you have a big range of skill with Dan playing Settler. Imagine playing Deity. I kid. So I was wondering how you guys handled the skill gap and how you still managed to have fun games. Well, I think at this point we've just kind of all agreed on a level that's in between everybody's skill.
You really had no choice but to compromise and tell everyone who's on the same page, pretty much.
Yeah, especially because, when you do choose multiple difficulty levels, the AI doesn't necessarily work at those levels.
Yeah, what does it go by, the lowest one that somebody picks?
Yeah, the lowest or the average or somewhere in there.
How does it work in Civ 5? I know in 4 it would average based on what people picked, but would still give you your own handicaps based on the difficulty you chose.
Yeah, I think that's fairly similar, considering a good chunk of it was carried over.
Okay.
So if his friends stayed down on Noble, he'd still only have the Noble level handicaps, but he'd get the Emperor handicaps and then would average out to, Prince or something?
Yeah, either Prince or Monarch. I don't know if it rounds up or down when you have, a number of difficulties in between.
So it wouldn't be curb stomp easy.
Except that Noble is Prince.
Right. There's no Noble.
Civ 4 and Civ 5.
Well, someone said King, and that's not really Civ 4, so I'm a little confused by the difficulty choice topics here. But
yeah, naming aside.
No Noble. Well, he's talking about AI playing at Noble level in Civ 5. That is confusing, yes.
Yes. Otherwise, you just kind of have to find a balance point that works for everybody.
Yeah, nudge it around so it's not so curb stompy for you, but not so frustratingly difficult. Because I know there's a couple of the guys that play with us that even though we sort of agreed on an average of Emperor, that it's still frustrating for them sometimes when we get rage quits just because, well, they just get trapped into a corner and crap happens.
Yeah, just positioning. Yeah, I mean, if you get a nice start, then it's okay to play at a higher level AI because you'll have that start to help you. But yeah, if you're stuck in a corner with all the AIs around you and you're not used to that difficulty level yet, then yeah, it can be a pain and rather frustrating.
Yeah, both Phil and Magid in particular, they've been talking about making compromises. And I think part of that is going to be that you need to also have some in-house rules, which choosing an AI target, you have to have a discussion. And when you talk about that he plays co-op games, I'm assuming, Red, that you are speaking to each other verbally, or if not, that you're talking through the in-game chat. So you can decide, okay, this civilization is near me, so I'm going to go for them. So that way, if it's your friend who is feeling overshadowed, then I don't know if part of that overshadowing is because that you're struggling, so then you come in and you help, but maybe you haven't had the discussion that you're going to come in and help, and then your friend is feeling frustrated. So there's that measure. But I also think, seeing as how it's just the two of you, I think your friend might benefit from playing with you and you playing on a team for a couple of times, because then your friend can see what it is that you are doing. And if you're also working together as a team, and particularly if you don't put any AIs on teams, then you can not only benefit from being able to see what someone is doing, you can see what your friend is doing, offer advice, he can more easily ask you questions, you can collaborate, combine your forces and your technology and a lot of these other advantages that you're going to get. And then after that, try it so that you are playing, I would say choose like a map that is not particularly water-based. So if for some reason your friend gets into difficulty, then you can come help, sooner rather than later, because you don't want a snowball effect. And it's also easier for you to back off as well if you're willing to have the patience for your friend to take out that AI, even if it takes a little longer than if you'd come in and done it yourself.
Yeah, and then there's also just basically sort of what Dan's getting at is teach your friend to get better at the game. And then as his skill level goes up, it'll be a little less of a skill gap, and you'll both have a bit more fun games.
In the meantime, pick the weakest civs you can find. If you're the player who is too high level, you could challenge yourself by deliberately picking civs that are not as strong as the others, or at least ones that you're not as familiar with or good with. Either one would work.
Or don't build wonders.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, let your friend rage when the AI builds it.
When they get Great Walled, Dan?
I'd say something about I'll show you a Great Wall, Mackie, but no.
It's my line.
Is there a skill gap spread beyond which the game stops being fun because of the spread? Like, should you only be about one level apart from each other?
The answer is yes, but it depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can have the game be fun with someone who's pretty terrible and someone who's playing at Lake Majin's level, but it depends on both players.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, because somebody might find fun in the fact that they are getting stomped to some degree because they are learning. And then you've got kind of what Mackie was saying, that for the people, when we try to come into the middle for someone who plays on a difficulty or even a difficulty too lower than usual, then they get frustrated and rage quit. So it does depend on the personality of your friend as well as you, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, that's clearly a personality problem. If somebody's got a rage quit at a game, I mean, if it's a little too hard and just gets too frustrated, then yeah, it brings both people down. Skill gap wise, I don't think it's that big of an issue for like what difficulty is. If you're at the higher end, like if you're going with deity and say Prince, then okay, that's probably too much of a skill gap if you're trying to play on Prince or something like that, because then the person at the higher difficulty level is just going to get bored because everything's really, really easy. But if you know you're going into it to say help somebody learn, that's a completely different mindset than, hey, let's play a game and I'm going to try and enjoy the game on my terms.
And I think Red and his friend are having a little bit easier than if you had more than two people playing the game. as well. Like, I think that's good when there is that kind of skill gap and that person is trying to learn. If you know other people, either in the real world or the virtual world, that also likes to play Civ, then it can be kind of a teaching game for that person. And then you can have a more quote-unquote fun game where it's just kind of like, okay, now that you've learned some things from me directly, direct them to some people who, I don't know, do some Let's Plays and the Beyond the Monument that you mentioned, like is your friend watching Beyond the Monument, for example, reading strategy forums, one or both, because I know some people prefer to see and some people prefer to read in a combination of the two. And even maybe if you just convinced your friend, if they're able to set aside some time to practice some things as well on their own in single player, then that can also help improve their game. Oh, and don't forget to trash talk the AI, because that helps build camaraderie.
Yeah. What's the best unique building in Civ 5? Obviously, this is a poll, so Dan's happy. Black Butterfly over on 2K Forums asked, what's your favorite unique building in Civ 5? And I've got to say that there's a difference between the poll and his question. He asked a question, what was your favorite? But the poll asked, what's the best? And those two things are not necessarily the same.
This is true.
The only ones in the poll, I guess I should say, are the Royal Library, Coffee House, Ducal Stable, Mogul Fort. It should be Mughal Fort, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Not Mughal. The Bazaar, the Walls of Babylon, the Candy, the Pyramid, the Hansa, and Steel.
And so quite rightly, the Mogul Fort has no votes because it doesn't actually exist.
No Mughals for you. What we do is we built a fort out of all these little, snow piles on the side of a mountain. Getting into this, some of the commentary on this. Hey, it's only a 1 page long, so that's not too bad. Could be worse. Sharples88 says, Ducal Stable is awesome if you have the horse, cattle, sheep in the region. Basically makes Poland superpowered with lots of stuff. Of course, if you don't have it, then it's kind of one of those meh. Otherwise, the Bazaar is gaining traction with them as well, because, hey, free luxuries, free copies, lots and lots and lots of stuff. Rattlehead says he loves the Hansa. It's like a second factory in the Renaissance, and in the late game it can be crazy when you start getting 35 to 40% increases. Absolutely. Trade route restriction is a bit of a drawback, but it does work well with the treaty organization tenant, and Germany's military discount makes Arsenal and Democracy a good choice too. So Germany is one of the civs he really favors freedom for. Pyramid? Alcibiades says, don't forget my pyramid, complaining that the poll is not prolific enough. Instant Science and Religion Head Start. Yes. Definitely better than some of the ones on the list, like the Mughals. Otherwise, Magnus Caesar likes the Steel. Same with Leopold. And of course, apparently no one likes candy.
Do.
Yes.
That was required.
Overall, so far the Steel is apparently winning, which is a little odd, because it's not that good of a building. It's nice, it's cheap, it's early, but whatever.
That's why in statistics you don't use such small sample sizes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was 22 voters. So
yeah, definitely not a statistically representative sample of the Civ playing population. So
yeah, but then you follow up with the Bazaar, followed by the Pyramid and the Hansa. Oh, apparently the Pyramid was actually on the list. The only ones who did not get votes so far, unless Phil's going to troll face.
I don't know if Phil even has a 2K account to troll right now.
I think I technically do, but I'm not logged in. It's too much effort. I am looking at the poll, though.
The Mughal Fort, the Walls of Babylon, and the Candy all have 0 votes.
I gotta say, after my first time skiing or second time skiing, I would have probably voted for the Mughal Fort.
So what do you guys think? What's your favorite out of the list?
Well, for me, actually, I just trolled a little bit, seeing as how Phil couldn't, and I just voted in the poll.
Oh, Dan.
You
have to vote live.
You can't
It's
really say
entertaining.
that this is unique to me. All of us have routinely done it in the past.
I know. I voted for the Pyramid.
So you like the Pyramid?
Yes.
Is it the best, or is it just your favorite?
No, I would say it is the best, but it's not my favorite, actually.
So what's your favorite then? Since that was the real question.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I would actually say my favorite would be the Steel, to push for, early religion.
I have to vote for the ducal stable. I always seem to run into gold problems later on in the game. But also, I think your favorite tends to end up being sort of what civs you end up enjoying playing the most. I don't think people actually pick civs based off of unique buildings. It kind of goes the other way around. Whatever civs you like best, those are the buildings you like best, probably.
When I ever think about what civilization would I most like to play, I don't think of a unique building only. I might take into account all of their uniques. I think that's closer to that. And I would say I would generally prioritize actually a unique unit.
Yeah, the winged hussars.
Over a unique building if I was trying to decide what civilization to play. But if I'm just looking at it in a vacuum in the sense of the best unique building in Civ 5, it's very difficult to discuss things in a vacuum. But that's what we're going to try to do. At least that's what I tried to do.
Well, they are kind of small.
Now, I don't hate the pyramids. I don't think it's hardly like not a not favorite building. It's not like I'd be like, oh crap, I'm the Mayans, now I got the pyramids, blah. No, definitely not. It is strong. There is no question. And actually, for me, for a civilization, the earlier I'm able to construct the building in the game, the better I find it to be for the snowball effect.
What about you, Mackie?
Well, I like the pyramids because I like playing the Maya and getting all that science. I mean, we're talking to the person who usually picks Messenger of the Gods. So.
Yeah.
With the pyramid, you will get +2 science along with 2 faith. Whatever ones have we mentioned? Oh, the steel, yep, that will give you +2 faith to go along with the +2 culture because it replaces the monument, and the pyramids, it replaces the shrine, so it gives you the science in addition to the faith.
Phil?
I'm torn here. I'm not sure if I should troll by actually just picking the Mogul Fort or by refusing to pick that I like anything except for the American civilization. So I'm not sure how to answer this. I think I'll go with the Mogul Fort. Because that just really owned me when I was skiing. So I think that is easily the most overpowered thing.
Right, just like with Honor, right?
Yeah.
Gotta go Honor.
Yeah, no, that is actually kind of consistent in a way. But this actual unique building, the Mughal Fort, also gives you +2 tourism after flight is researched. Because this is a castle replacement, so it also requires walls.
Yeah.
If the tourism portion was available a little earlier, but I understand why.
And personally, my favorite unique building? That's a good question. I haven't really thought of that.
Let's listen to Imagine Think live on the show.
Woohoo! I mean, the Bazaar is pretty good. I like the Bazaar, especially with the rest of Arabia stuff. But Akandia, I think, is my favorite. Gotta get
the Zulu barracks.
Yes, the Zulu barracks. I think that's my favorite. But the best unique building in Civ 5, I definitely have to give that to the coffee house. And not just because of coffee. And not just because of coffee. The reasoning behind the coffee house being the best unique building in the game, because it does a couple things for you. One, it's a windmill replacement, and since no one ever really builds windmills. But it's a windmill replacement that does not require you to put it on flatlands, which means you can build it anywhere. So you're always getting the windmill side of the benefit. Makes it that much more awesome. And yes, it does have the engineer slot and the extra 25% boost to Great People Generation. So this is a unique building that you can actually build.
Kind of like how the candy replaces the garden, and it doesn't have to be built next to a river or a lake, the Indonesian unique building. But it is Indonesia.
Otherwise, I will take a Kaylee, nice little opera house as well. But yeah, I like the coffee house the best. I think that's the best replacement because it's sufficiently more powerful than what it replaces, and it replaces something and makes a building useful that no one ever builds anyways. Because, I mean, seriously, who builds on flat lands if they can build on a hill instead?
It also is available before the game is essentially decided and over.
Yes.
That helps too.
Yes, it is. Still available in the Renaissance.
Renaissance!
The problem is it's hard for me to make the decision in isolation because of the unique unit, so I really like the knockback feature for the Winged Hussars. Not like I'm trying to hijack the topic, but the combination is great. So
you're not trying to hijack the topic, but you did anyway.
Yeah,
okay,
just
fair.
trying.
She doesn't even have to try to do it.
Quite nicely with the Mayan long count and all the great people and all that fun stuff. So
can I try to, now that we've gone over the best, if I'm looking at all of these on the list, the only one that makes me frown actually are the Walls of Babylon.
Yeah, I don't know why it made the list. I do like the walls because it is plus 100 points rather than plus 50. Really makes Babylon sit back and just ignore anybody who's trying to run them over. That early
your little army is cute.
Yeah, it's a cute little army. You'll never break my walls, but, go away now. That's a nice feature, but yeah, they aren't that special.
If the pyramids weren't on the list and there was just a 9, I would choose the Hansa second.
Started by Kaiko. The thread is titled, "Why does chopping a jungle produce nothing?" And we all are already off to a wrong start, because I would assert that it clearly produces frustration. But that's besides the point. The thread reads, "Hello all. So after yet another jungle start, I'm curious if anyone has any theories why chopping jungle provides nothing akin to chopping down forest, which takes less time to attack and takes less time for your worker to accomplish. It seems nonsensical to me. Even if jungle doesn't produce production from chopping, why not a food infusion or a tiny bit of culture? The current difference between forest and jungle chopping seems to me to be a relic of legacy game design choices that have long since been left in the dustbin. I disagree there too. I feel like chopping jungle is one of those things that has carried over quite well between games."
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't left in the dustbin.
Jungle.
Like, ever since it existed, it has been unfavorable to start with the jungle. I'd say Civ 5 is actually a little less bad in that regard, and it's still iffy at best.
Jungle wood doesn't necessarily make for great lumber, as Jazzy Cat was trying to point out.
Yeah, that's commonly said in the thread, and it's a good point. From a historical standpoint, it's less favorable to start in the middle of a jungle, but I don't know, from a gameplay standpoint, I do question the way it's balanced currently. Because if you're not making the effort to use the wood in any capacity, why don't you just have like a burn jungle button or something?
I guess it would be more accurately described as clear jungle.
Well, sure. However you want to call it, but it's true that it does take pretty long, and I don't think that is necessarily 100% historically accurate compared to, say, its usefulness.
Fair to say taking a match and a lighter and just burning down that section?
Yeah.
Well, in a way, it's not so much about the chopping the jungle producing nothing. It's that by removing the jungle, you can actually do something, so to speak, that it actually clears the land. Although at the same time, because, now of course, yes, with Civilization 5, that if you construct a university, and by if, I mean you almost probably should be. But anyway, once you construct, you're able to get to education, construct a university, then each one of those jungle tiles starts producing science. You kind of have to make a choice that you can either leave the jungle alone and get that science later, or is it more worthwhile chopping that jungle? And then when it comes to science, well, just allow your city to grow even more so you can, once you get the university, you can start working scientist specialist spots, for example, and then you can just have the science from there.
Exactly. So in the thread, like, Abraxas and Cat501 both bring up good points, and I think it has to do with balancing, because if you get later on game benefits from actually having those tiles available to you, or you can actually turn it into a plains tile and get those hammers, being able to actually receive hammers from chopping it as well sort of makes it a better tile than actually being surrounded by just traditional forest.
If you should happen to have rolled Brazil in your chopping jungle, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, don't chop your jungles.
In the thread, Aspen28570 says, why not just have it, and by that being chopping the jungle, give you a small sum of gold when cleared instead of hammers? The gold bonus would not be that much, between 15 to 40 gold per hex.
That's a lot more than you think it is.
Well, in the end, it's not that much. About the same as production on that one, though. I mean, you could do that, because then you could say you're selling the jungle rare hardwoods, whatever, for money, which is, more plausible than getting hammers. But still, that jungle tile is still way better with jungle. Unless, of course, it's sitting on a luxury or a hill that you really want to turn into a mine, in which case you're turning it into mine anyway, so...
And this is hardly the first time this topic has come up, in the sense that, B. Kaiko, who, by the way, was a guest on episode 145 in April of 2012, talked about, relic of the legacy game design choices. Back in May of 2008, Magma Dragoon started a thread, Jungle Chop should give hammers, in the context of Civilization 4. So I think regardless of whatever civilization we're talking about, it is represented well. It's balanced well, both gameplay-wise and taking into realism considerations, too.
Yeah. Although there was points made somewhere in here like jungle science should be reduced to 1, like at least early game, which sort of makes more sense because the big sciencey stuff didn't come till much later in the game.
Balance. Give them something.
Balance. Research labs. That should give you science from jungles.
Oh my gosh. Come on now.
Come on. It'll make them actually worthwhile.
I think there are different opinions on the worthwhileness of that.
I don't think there are. I think there are different focuses on the reasons for saying things.
Oh, to me, jungle would stand to even have less of a chance of sticking around on the map if I had to wait till a research lab. I mean, I'm all for helping out, certain late game buildings, although I think the research lab is okay. It's the medical lab that's a bit more, but
extra food from jungle.
Well, sure. You can get extra food by having a citizen work a tile that gives you food and not the jungle.
Yeah. Well, you can always trading post the jungle anyways and get science out of that from rationalism. And then you just wait a little longer before you get more.
Yeah, you could do that. That's late enough so as not to be, whoa, we're going kind of in the other extreme here as opposed to, but the game's over, man.
Yeah, but B. Kaiko's comment about jungles being unbalanced compared to forests, I think is completely and utterly wrong. Page 2, he starts getting into gameplay-wise, it's pretty unbalanced. And I would say it's exactly unbalanced the opposite way. Jungles plus trading post or Brazil boot camp, depending on what you do, is far more powerful than anything you can do with the forest. Anything.
On the Civ Reddit, the question was asked, do you talk to yourself obsessively when you play Civ? And so, actually, there are quite a few comments here, and I was a little bit surprised. It sounds like some of the folks are actually doing Let's Play-style running commentaries to themselves as opposed to just sort of dropping F-bombs and swearing in frustration when various things happen in the game.
Yeah, some of the ones I'm reading are pretty funny.
I know. For some of the folks, I think they should actually speak to a professional. However, we know that Imagine talks to himself when he plays for obvious reasons. What about you guys?
I would never do it. No.
Yeah.
I don't talk to myself while playing games, and I don't talk to other people while playing games. I'm totally silent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not non-stop talking to myself, but on occasion, like some of the comments.
Yeah, when the AI does something particularly annoying, and you have to drop an F-bomb because what the crap, guys?
Yeah, like when Journeyman42 says, usually allowed explicatives after someone else wonder sniped me. That's fair.
That's a pretty common occurrence for me.
Just want to bear the top. Oh, come on. Are we really going to do this again, Rome?
Phil, you claim that you don't, but I'll bet you're like DaveFlyer55 who says, yes, the words are typically, I'm telling you to move. Why won't you move? And I'm clicking next turn. Why won't it end my turn?
There's Alka Ponage 0007. I'm bad about narrating the game. The squad of archers, having been separated from their companions, was forced to circle back around. At the same time, armies from Rome built up on the border of Egypt as though standing watch over what seemed a dark, unknown land. ...
That would be awesome. That guy should do a Let's Play.
He's like writing a novel.
He should just do a Let's Play like that the whole time. I'd watch that, for sure.
I think the only time I've done commentary is the one Beyond the Monument episode I was on. I started like a sports-style commentary of what Magin was doing on screen. Oh, and this thread, by the way, was started by Ricky Ticky Tappy. Say that a few times fast. Reaper Chip says, what do you mean, whisper? I shout loudly when things don't go my way, and then I softly whisper all the things I will do to the offending Civ so they don't hear it.
Hey, sometimes the AI knows what you're saying. Say something about something, and then the AI will randomly do that or do something to prevent that. Very annoying.
There's one that I think sometimes, with multiplayer, this makes sense. So Dave Flyer 55 said, when playing with friends, our trash talk becomes quite hilarious, with quotes such as, you shall pay for your misdeeds against our great nation, and given to the way of insert religion here, it is the one truth, and your resistance is futile.
There's also, who is this? Calistico down there is like, I'm usually silent, but I do constantly flip off the AI when they want 3 Luxes and 10 gold for turn for one of theirs.
It's like, come on, really?
I get some work out of those fingers for certain things, yeah.
You know what's better than one middle finger? All your fingers, and you can give them a bouquet.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think that really has the same effect as the 2 fingers.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's one here I do agree with, and I can actually see myself saying this quite frequently. F off, India. I told you I don't want your, blankety blank religion. Stop it already.
I have a screenshot in my Steam cloud of that just kind of thing. It was Songhai instead, but...
I think it's just, I told you, AI name here, I didn't want your religion. Stop spreading it to me. Or, I told you not to settle towards me, and then what do? Yeah, you go ahead and do it anyway.
And it goes back to MD's point, they know what you're saying.
It's very human-like.
Mm-hmm.
Creepy.
Or you look over into their territory, why did you settle there?
The city's just replaced by the troll face icon. That's it. It's just sitting there like that. Shoshone in particular.
The Omega Theta. In wars throughout history, soldiers have often surrendered. Why not bring that mechanic to the Civilization games? And the idea is the basic mechanics that under certain circumstances a Civ loses control of their military units. Okay, whoa. Why would you do that?
Keep going.
Alright, like what would happen when a rival Civ captures a worker or a settler. When the unit surrenders, the capturing power gets a pop-up menu asking if it wants to accept the surrender. If they don't, the unit's destroyed. Where's what happens if they decide to keep it? To accept the surrender, they gain control of the unit but can't attack with it and have to pay a somewhat steep upkeep. Units can be liberated just like captured workers.
Can you imagine the level of late-game micromanagement you would have to do if that were the case?
And people would be like, 1 unit per tile? No! These things should have their own level. Blah, blah, blah.
Imagine most of the times if you punked some unit enough to capture it, you were probably intending to kill it anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it could be like pillaging the unit, so it would heal your units a little bit as though you were kind of taking over their supplies or, weapons and such. That could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they really want in a POW camp style thing, except that when left in a player's hand, somebody would just delete the surrendered unit.
Yeah, look what happens to when we capture missionaries and great prophets now. That if you can't settle the great prophet and worth the missionary, we just delete it.
Yeah. There's your prohibitive gold upkeep. Delete. Bye.
Exactly. With that steep upkeep, even if you decide to keep them surrendered, you wouldn't keep them. And what's going to be the benefit of trading them back? Let's see.
There's a key line in the second paragraph here, though. And that is, it's a random chance before each engagement. And yeah, he's saying that flanking will cause it to happen more frequently. But could you imagine just half of your army surrendering on dumb luck early in the game or something? It'd be so obnoxious.
2 lines, you get flanked. Oh wait, that one's gone. It now flanks the next one. Oops, no, that one's gone. It now flanks the next one. Oops, no.
Historical.
Promotion
and good for gameplay.
Surrendering.
Yep.
Well, see, I wouldn't mind a land-based unit like Privateer, right, which they can capture enemy naval units it defeats, but that, of course, isn't for the entire game, first of all, because you have to get to, navigation for the Privateer. So you could have a land-based one that has that similar grab. And, of course, people might say, well, Dan, now you're interfering with a German unique ability. And it's like, yeah, well, that can be changed.
Why don't you just put spies back forward like they were in the earlier Civs and let us recruit units that way?
I wouldn't use the word surrender, but it would be capture and then convert to your use.
Look if they were locked in place for a few turns until you assimilated them, so to speak.
Well, it'd kind of be, I mean, the realistic answer to this is the best that they would probably do is if a unit has a certain amount of flanking against them, i.e. percentage of flank, which means that certain civs will have a bonus because they get bonus to flanks or increased flank bonus, and a unit is sufficiently hurt, it may just quit the field and just disappear rather than having to be fought constantly. So, if a unit's going to be down to like 10 hit points, that it'll just quit. You'll still do some damage, but then it'll surrender and then just disappear, period. I mean,
or
that's
if it was slightly higher health when it decided to surrender, you might get to keep it, and then you could get upgrade or more army that way, but I guess it would depend on how flanked they were.
Yeah, I'd say you're not going to get somebody else's unit this way. I mean, if I was going to design the game mechanic, no. The best you got is the unit goes away. But more flanked, higher chance of surrendering. And the more damaged, better chance of surrendering. And yes, there would be like civs or policies that would get bonuses. And honor might even get some of that bonus negate.
Yeah, there's other things in here like having a UN proposal where you could make the Geneva Conventions, which would up the penalties more for things, and a POW camp building. Holy crap.
Yeah, no. I think that whole bit gets a little too much for the Civ 5 style of game. If it was like EU4 maybe, then that could work, but...
As he suggested, the mechanic, yes.
Yeah, at least not in Civ 5 anyways. It wouldn't really work on that level. We do have a mechanic like that to steal ships.
I guess, but not like the masked, okay, I just clicked on something face-to-face with a random unit and captured this or many of this.
Yeah, that can happen a lot.
With standard units?
Well, privateers and missionaries and Germany and the Ottomans.
No, I agree with you there, but I don't consider those to be standard units. I never built a fleet of privateers only, but, I mean, I guess you could.
Well, not privateers only, but the privateers for the killing blow to steal them.
Yeah, that's true.
That I've done.
Same. I wouldn't mind a land-based equivalent.
I don't know. I guess. If you have like one unit like that, not every unit flanking, especially in the early game.
And it would be one of those units that you would have to have a combined arms with, in the sense that it's probably going to move in kind of like for the kill, like a privateer would, or in this case for the capture, as opposed to, hey, guess what? It's powerful enough on its own, just build one and go on a rampage. No, I wouldn't want that either. As long as it's consistent with the era, like if you and your opponent are in the same era, then if that unit has that ability, then you want to combine that with something else because of how powerful it would be in order to capture that unit. Kind of like siege units. Boom, there go your defenses. Aw, but you can't capture the city with the capital. No, you need another unit, like a melee unit or a mounted unit.
This also makes me hesitate because of the frequency and effectiveness of usage between the human and the AI player, but that's okay. I guess that's true in most things.
Yeah, and ECAT2468 just brought that up in the chat. In a way, he's like, I've never seen the AI build a navy sufficiently large enough to justify using privateers.
Well,
yes, you have.
You certainly have not seen the AI use the privateers as effectively as a human player would.
No, I think his point is that the AI doesn't build enough ships for you to warrant wanting to steal it. But I think he's lying there. He's seen my games. He's watched my LPs. He has seen an AI build a navy sufficiently large enough to justify using privateers on. So there's a thread on Reddit about landmines. Can it be? He wants fortresses to be minefields that deal damage to incoming units on the tile. The one-off space on your era. He's never used the defensive structure ever, and often his borders don't touch my soon-to-be-conquered cities from whomever, and I would love a way to construct a building that damages non-friendly units that move into those tiles. Okay. There's this wonderful thing called a citadel.
Maybe he's talking about something that a landmine being hidden, not something that you would see and would not be activated unless you were an enemy unit moving onto the tile and it was constructed by the now enemy unit, which seems, unless there was a way to then say, okay, now we need a unit for combined arms that could actually, I don't know, see the landmines or have a chance to see the landmines. That just seems to get a bit too trolly.
No, I'm pretty sure his suggestion is that the basic fort that you can build with a worker or other places should have the ability to do damage to enemy units that pass by it.
That sounds familiar.
I'm picturing this, like, from just from how it would happen visually. Like, okay, you got a regiment of soldiers walking by a fort, and the fort just explodes.
And then disappears.
Yeah, but you could consider it something like attrition. So, say you have a fort that they went out, put a bunch of spikes out there or something, just to slow them down.
When you say fort equals landmine, I mean, that's what comes to mind.
Just big old explosives. But realistically, that is called the Citadel, and it's exactly what the thing does. It does damage.
Exactly.
It does damage to anybody that wanders by. It's definitely not one-off, although you only get them one at a time.
Yeah.
Depending on how many great generals you have, but yeah.
Or it's sort of like sticking a crossbowman inside of a fort, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dare you to bother my Gatling gun in my Citadel.
So I guess for some different reasons, our response to Combat Wombat 1, who started this thread on Reddit, is no.
No.
Aww, trolling, sorry. As Magetta61 brought up, it's a Minesweeper mini game.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you imagine getting a Minesweeper pop up while playing Civ? Yeah. As you're just trying to walk your troops across the border and someone's forted up the entire perimeter?
Yeah.
First click, mine kills you.
And the point is just to laugh at ECAT a little. Citadels do require great generals to build, and you might have a shortage of those. Well, you should be fighting more often. But otherwise, yes, having free damage constantly with a worker, I mean, because it's really fairly easy to get your borders out past the 3 range from your city so that you can get the 4th and 5th hexes cultured and therefore build a crazy ton of forts there. So I could see if it was plausible, especially for the damage, people would just like spam workers, build forts everywhere. Barbs would never be an issue because the barbs would just wander around, hit a fort and go boom. And then anybody tries to invade you, well, there's a sea of forts in between them and you. Like, have fun trying to get a army anywhere.
And you thought the Great Wall was bad?
It would be a great wall. It would be very impressive, the things
It's
that
a
people
stretch
would
of land
build.
between North and South Korea.
Yeah, but that's tiny in comparison to what people would do in game.
Yeah.
So ECAT says in response, what if you're playing a culture game and not an automatic culture game?
Well, too bad.
Well, my first reaction is if you're playing a culture game, there's probably somebody going after you, or there should be somebody going after you, which means you're on the defensive, which would probably also mean that you'd be generating some great generals. But even if that's not happening, then a wonder that you can actually, through the construction, get yourself a great general. Is that
Brandenburg's Gate? Yeah.
goes? Then you prioritize that. You could go honor and get, what is that, warrior code that gives you a free great general? Like, there are other ways to get great generals, too.
Yep. Oh, you can buy them with faith?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there's that, too. In addition to finishing Liberty, it's that wonder that gives you that free great person.
Leaning Tower?
There's also another exploit. If you can defend your workers, you can start building forts as choke points inside of someone else's borders that you've dowed.
Mm-hmm. And then you'd have offensive landmines.
ECAT wants to know, what if you're on an island by yourself? Well, then what are you probably going to need these mines for then? There isn't that much land to worry about.
Now we're just getting into silly hypotheticals.
I know he is, but I think it's fair enough to address. He keeps lobbing them at us, so we're just going to keep lobbing them
right back.
Exactly. Okay, let's know. Why would I waste a free great person on a great general when I can get a scientist or an engineer? That's because you're talking about how can I get a great general if I'm not in, a warlike mode. There's a choice on how to get it.
I mean, when I say one more turn, Facebook posts on Sid Meier's Civilization Facebook page, and basically it is a pie chart. And here are the categories. Just until I break up this barbarian encampment, just until my wonder is built, just until I get to the next tech, I am going to be playing for the rest of the evening, or actually just one more turn.
That says I'm going to be playing for the rest of the evening, which is the majority of this pie chart. What happens when evening turns into morning, though?
Yeah,
That's the classic. Holy
hours.
crap, 6 a.m.
Just make more coffee.
Probably one of the most commented anything on the official Facebook page for Civilization. There's some good responses, like Jules Sarnata said, just until Steam crashes.
Yeah.
That's probably an honest answer.
I like Nico Siebel's comment, just until the whole world is under my dominance, with every civilization crumbling as my troops march forth, with the fire of 1,000 nukes falling from the skies and the giant robots marching into the cities.
So it sounds like a typical field game.
Yeah.
I like Coben Sean's response, just until I reach the next save point.
Wait. If it means autosave, I hope you have it going more than every few turns, because you might be here a while.
I also like Tom Rush, until I die of old age waiting for the multiplayer lag. Oh.
Oh. Oh no.
Zing.
The only thing that's kind of too bad about the pie chart is they actually didn't put the percentages on there. I'll live.
Well, it's probably a fake pie chart anyway.
It's actually a chart that's a pie that has categories.
You know what I mean. There was
There's
not
no
actually a
pies.
poll.
Was there a vote?
Pie chart. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was no vote. Somebody in the department decided this would be funny.
Hey, how do we know they didn't ask everybody at 2K? We don't know.
Somebody in the department Googled One More Turn and found the pie chart that somebody else had made years ago. And then just decided to put it on. Let's be honest.
Yes, but there's still not a holy crap at 6 a.m. in the morning on this pie chart, therefore it is invalid.
Holy crap, it's 6 a.m. and it's Monday.
Yeah. Oops.
And this is why our weekly games are Saturday night, not Sunday.
Because that would be bad.
Call in today.
In North America, the number is 301-637-7659.
That's 301-637-POLY.
In Europe, 44121-288-7659. That's 44121-288-POLY.
The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
For more information on PolyCast,
Our sibling shows Modcast, Revcast, and Turncast,
or about PolyCast in general,
Log on to the series' official website at
thepolycast.net.
thepolycast.net.
And Cat's like, it's not a cake. I still don't get that reference. You used it anyway.
Hey,
Cat.
you will learn the reference. Get with the rest of the internet.
Speaking of the rest of the internet,
Yeah. Hey, rest of the internet.
Nobody's picking with you, Cat.
Okay, then. Are we done?
I assume so. I don't hear you acting.
Mackie.
Dan, are we done?
yes.
Okay then.
Yes, that's the end of the top list.
Yeah, that's why the ending says ending.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I know what ending means. I'm just making sure Dan didn't have any other surprises or things he wanted to talk about, because sometimes he does. So, this has been episode 191 of PolyCast. I'm Makalua as usual. With me, of course, is Dan Q.
When I say one more turn, I mean one more turn.
Imagine.
Not done until I finish westernizing. Oh, wait.
Wrong game. Me and Dean.
My next technology research is going to be explosive forts. I don't care which game.
And our guest this week, Nerdy Sandy.
What Civ 5 really needs is a Minesweeper mod.
Yeah, for all those times we're having to wait in between turns in multiplayer.
Exactly.
Well, say something yourself, Dan. I think it's on my end.
You think it's on your end?
Yeah, it's definitely on my end. I have that allow Sky to automatically adjust mixer levels off.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nerdy Sandy. So I'm a...
Right? I was like, wow. So, welcome to PolyCast episode fill in the blank.
Welcome to PolyCast episode number... What episode number are we on?
Don't worry, Dan's going to edit this so that it sounds
I think
perfect.
you'll sound brilliant.
Now I even started playing Civ 4 again and Civ Rev for the iPad, and it is all your fort. All your fault.
Good reading there, Dan.
Where did I get fort from? I said it was such...
He said it so emphatically, I was sure that he actually said it himself as a joke or something.
We're so used to this kind of jokes.
That was not on purpose either.
Wow.
Pretty good, man.
Wow. I would have believed it if you just said it was.
And I didn't realize that the episode I was supposed to be on was about girls gaming. I'm disappointed that I missed it.
That the episode was about what now?
That it was all female. It was like
yeah.
a full estrogen fest for the Christmas special.
Yes, last year.
Oh, was it last year? Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, it was season 6.
Actually, by last year...
Yeah, we mean 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It is weird writing 2014 or typing 2014 still.
It always is.
What
for
if
the
you've
first,
done it
8
like
months.
50 times? Hi, by the way.
Hello.
And you know it's Phil, because he's talking over top of other people. It's just...
We all do that sometimes.
Nuh-uh.
I just do it slightly more.
Is Sandy still there? I'm just wondering because.
Yes, I am.
Okay, you just got really quiet.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier either. Apologize.
No worries.
It's okay. Whenever he does that, just throw coffee at him. Yeah, but couldn't you just sell off your other buildings then? Once you build it?
No, you can't sell buildings.
Oh, yeah.
Nor do they cost anything.
Stupid.
It's not a bad model for Civ because of maintenance in Civ,
Yeah.
but in Civ 4.
So do we have one more topic?
I suppose so. And speaking of one more, yes, this is a Facebook post. What? What?
What?
I am introducing the topic, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
That made that
You
mistake.
have to ask the question.
No, I was in the middle of introducing it, and you guys were extremely mannerful and interrupting me.
Me in this, I wasn't saying a word, Phil.
You guys, I was not being descriptive as to who I was accusing. So, but now that you are speaking, it does make it more questionable. Why would you feel the need to defend yourself if I did not initially identify you?
So there was a topic in here somewhere?
Yeah, at the intro, I was like, but I thought Dan Q was going to kick it off.
No.
I was like, shit, I'm supposed to know what episode number this is?
It's in the Skype chat. Name.
Yeah, I was flipping between screens.
So, Sandy, I take it you'd like me to cut that, what you just said there from the...
No bloopers.
That sounds like a blooper.
I leave it in your capable hands.
So, blooper then.
Record date January 18th, 2014. Civilization 4 and 5 sound clips. Copyright Take-Two Interactive. Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.